Hey everybody, this is Michael J with this old car. Everyone who's into American cars probably remembers the golden era of the late 60s and early 70s, especially the horsepower wars that raged between the big three in the muscle car segment. And honestly, that's no surprise. Engine output was climbing with just about every new model year back when annual redesigns were the norm. Powertrain tech, well, it was evolving at breakneck speed, and designers did everything they could to make sure your ride looked like it had more horses under the hood than your neighbors. The personal luxury segment was also on the rise. These land yachts just kept getting bigger while gaining more muscle under the hood. And with all that came a growing list of options, some of which are hard to believe even existed 60 years ago. Take GM's Twilight Centennial system, for example. It was introduced in the early 60s and could automatically turn headlights on or off, depending on outside light. Even crazier, its predecessor from back in 1952 could dim your high beams for oncoming traffic. But as we said before on this channel, the big automakers never made their real money on the high-performance, fully loaded top trims. The SUV hadn't been invented yet, and four-wheel drive vehicles with serious ground clearance were the kind of folks who, spend more time in mud boots rather than behind the wheel. Still, families needed something to travel in with kids, relatives, and luggage in tow. And since we are talking about the great USA, the car capital of the world, the default family hauler back then was the station wagon. And as you'd expect, when it came to wagons, neither the engineers nor the marketing teams held back. Under the hood and inside the cabin, well, they packed in the features. Competition in this class was just as intense as the battles on the drag strip between factory and race teams. One of the most iconic examples of the classic American wagon from that golden age was the Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, launched for the 1964 model year.
Well, is Vista Cruiser a utility wagon or a high-style car? It's both. Vista Cruiser by Oldsmobile.
From the start, Oldsmobile made sure this wagon had one feature to set it apart from the others, and that was the roof. It was raised above the second row and cargo area and had 4 extra windows, 2 on the sides and 2 across the top. You could even pay extra to get them tinted. Not only did this setup make the cabin feel a lot more open, it also looked expensive and classy. Passengers in the second row got their own sun visors, just in case that gorgeous starry sky over Arizona suddenly turned into blazing desert sun. This idea was inspired by the GMC Scenic Cruiser, a full-size touring bus that had done it first and bigger. The Vista Cruiser rode on the A-body platform with a 12-foot wheelbase and weighed around 3,300 pounds, depending on options. Engine choices, well, they ranged from a modest 3.7-liter V6 with 155 horsepower to a beefy 5.4-liter V8 that made 290 horsepower in 1964. Or even up to 320 horsepower by 1967 with a 4-barrel carburetor. Transmission choices included a basic 2-speed automatic with a column shifter or a 4-speed manual with a floor shifter. Perfect for dads who still wanted a sporty feel in a family ride. Otherwise, it was pick your poison. Air conditioning, power, front bench seats, a third row that faced forward, vinyl or cloth upholstery, cruise control, and even a limited slip differential. And yes, simulated wood paneling became available starting with the 1966 model year. To show how much Americans valued comfort, just look at the numbers. In just 4 years, Oldsmobile sold 6 times more Vista Cruisers in the top custom trim than in the base versions. From 1964 to 1967, over 100,000 Vista Cruisers hit the streets. Oh hey, check this out. In the background of one of the old promo photos, you can spot the wild GM Firebird 1 concept from 1953. It was powered by a 370 horsepower turbine engine. We've got a video coming out on that car very soon. The second generation Vista Cruiser still rode on the A-body platform, but the wheelbase grew by an inch and curb weight, well, it increased by about 650 pounds. Only V8s remained, Oldsmobile's legendary Rocket V8s with displacements up to 400 cubic inches, that's around 6.6 liters. And by 1970, buyers could opt for a massive 7.0-liter V8 with, just 320 horsepower, but nearly 520 pound-feet of torque. Styling updates followed Oldsmobile's corporate design language, and the options list expanded even more. Notable features included the Twilight Centennial light control system, electric clocks, a power antenna, cassette stereo, roof rack, and, of course, power windows, AC, and cruise control, all available for extra money. 2 major changes came to the second-generation Vista Cruisers. The forward glass portion of the roof became a single piece instead of 2. A vinyl roof option was introduced, giving it that upscaled vibe. Just imagine the look, a massive station wagon with a vinyl roof, panoramic glass, and wood siding. Oh, and starting in 1969, all 3-row versions, they came standard with the dual-action tailgate, where the glass dropped inside the gate, which could then fold down or swing open sideways. You could also pair the 4-speed manual with a floor shifter from Hurst Olds Performance, though it looked more at home on a 442 coupe than on a big family wagon over 18 feet long. In 1971, Oldsmobile brought back the custom cruiser built on a massive 127-inch wheelbase with a total length of over 18.7 feet. Now that was a full-size American road trip car. That big wagon also got the slide-away tailgate, a 2-piece rear door with full power operation, the same setup used on the Pontiac Grand Safari. And nope, there was never an official Vista Cruiser 442. A few wagons were modified by Hurst Olds for the 1972 Indy 500, where they were used as, support vehicles. Any Vista Cruiser 442 showing up at auction today, they're just clones, replicas, or custom builds. The second-gen Vista Cruiser saw over 160,000 units built, with most of them the top-tier 8-passenger trim. The third-generation Vista Cruiser arrived in 1973 and shrank a bit thanks to a downsized 116-inch wheelbase A-body platform. The overall length stayed close to 18 feet, but weight crept up close to 4,000 pounds. Unlike the full-size custom cruiser, which borrowed design cues from the Olds 98 series, the Vista Cruiser and its budget twin, the Cutlass Supreme Cruiser, adopted the mid-size colonnade styling that was all over GM's lineup at the time. The iconic panoramic roof, it was gone, replaced by a basic roof option over the front seats. The third row now faced backwards, and the rear hatch turned into a typical 1-piece tailgate. Even though engine displacement stayed about the same, horsepower dropped hard across the board, just like it did for every American car during that smog-regulated malaise era. Handling, it did improve thanks to the new platform, but by the mid-70s, buyers were losing interest in mid-size wagons. The big custom cruisers, which stretched to a jaw-dropping 231 inches or 19.25 feet by 1976, managed to survive into the 80s and even the 90s. But the Vista Cruiser, stripped of its signature roof, well, it was discontinued quietly after 1977. It never got a true replacement. At the peak of its popularity in 1970, the Vista Cruiser started at $3,636. That's about $30,000 in today's money, 2025, and funny enough, that's still the going rate at auctions today, according to Classic.com. Not bad for what was just a regular family station wagon. And then there are outliers like the 1972 442 clone. One of those rare replicas. Well, at the 2022 Mecum auction, someone paid $110,000 for one. Hey, you don't know what 442 means? Check out our video on the Olds 442.